It's like,
Oh, the you went to my website.
yeah,
The
of
whole
course.
BioArcos thing.
Yeah, yeah. Is that a
Yeah,
troll
so
or?
that's it's funny that you bring that up. Yeah, so the idea there is, well, let's see. Um, I guess the high level idea um, is the world is made up of a bunch of matter, and we currently have a fairly linear economy where we extract different elements, different units of matter um, from the earth in one way or another, process it into some kind of good, consume that good, and after a certain lifetime, a certain life cycle, we dispose of it. Right? Um, Very linear. And when we dispose of it, it's not like that thing quickly disaggregates into usable parts again, right? So it's just like now you just have these plastics or what have you, right? You have these batteries that you just need to leave around. You have these electronics. Um, that's what people talk about when they say that our economy is not sustainable. Among other things, there's the idea of like the recycle economy, where maybe there are few life cycles, but eventually the thing gets used up. So you buy a bottle of water and you keep the bottle of water as a water bottle. You like refill it a few times over, and then after that you use it to do that trick where you can separate the egg yolk from the egg white. You do that a few times and then it becomes this crusty thing that's gross and then you throw it out, right? It's better than just using it once, but still the ultimate thing is you throw it out. I mean, you should recycle, but still, I mean, what's happening with recycling now? I don't even know. China's not taking it anymore. So then there's this. So then we step into this other idea that people have started talking about, which is the cyclical economy, where basically once the thing is disposed, then you reintroduce it into the economy in some way as a raw good that can be processed into some kind of consumer good that can be consumed, and then it's disposed into a raw good again, so on and so on. So instead of the water bottle being recycled, the units of the water bottle are then used to make something else, right? And I think that's what we often think of when we think of recycling, but I don't think that that happens quite so often. And usually, like when you do remake something with like a water bottle, right? You'll see like people, I don't, what's like they make toothbrushes out of plastic that
Mhm.
was the water bottle, but then what happens to the toothbrush, right? It's like it's still like a one-time cycle sort of a thing. So this idea of a cyclical economy is a good one, but I don't think we've really acted on it all that much. And I think one of the missing links is this idea of disaggregation. Um, I've been like really fascinated by plants and mushrooms lately. Fungi, the just the ability for acids and enzymes to take complex molecules and break them down into essential units that make them usable to plants again. Like that system in and of itself is wonderful. It's fantastic, right? Like we should find methods, maybe physical chemical ones, maybe biological ones, of introducing that into our economy, not just for a sustainable future, but if you're able to take people's trash and then make it into something useful, like you're gonna make a ton of money. Is cursing okay on this podcast?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, all right. I was about to say a fuck ton of money, and then I stopped myself. So it's like there's an interesting line of thinking there. Now it's easier said than done, right? That's why it hasn't been done yet. It's like okay, well that's a great idea. Now tell us how to do it. It's like who knows? And there's some people that are looking into it. Um, but I think the more we kind of commit ourselves to that, the more progress we can make towards it. And there's also that's a very kind of generalized high level view. So you need to kind of start concentrating on particular waste products, particular contaminants, and maybe kind of move forward from there. Right. So the most readily available ones. I think, or the ones that like come to mind immediately for people when they think about waste and pollution are going to be trash that you find on the street. It's going to be water pollution, and then it's going to be air pollution, especially carbon dioxide. And so, Tarek, the thing that I think you saw, I think the thing that you're alluding to is this first project for this group called BioArcos, um, which just means life first. Bio being life, and Arcos is the root word for architecture, and it just means the first in a hierarchy. But the purpose of BioArcos is to essentially go into this like cyclical economy. We're calling it resource ecology. Um, but we're looking at carbon dioxide specifically, and we're looking at ways of capturing carbon dioxide in a decentralized manner. So there are a lot of companies out there, there are 2 or 3 companies out there that are looking at this thing called direct air capture, where they're capturing carbon dioxide from the air, and using that carbon dioxide to like create a synthetic fuel or to feed greenhouses, right? It's an awesome idea, but these things that they're building are massive. They are like industrial scaled units that people wouldn't have in their homes or in their offices, maybe in their breweries, right? But that's like the smaller ones. The larger ones are like it would have to be bought by a municipality and placed on some kind of industrial lot, which is fine, right? Like if we can make that happen, awesome. But it's so large. The threshold for entry seems like it would be pretty high. That I don't know if we would make enough of them quickly enough to actually overcome the issue that we have like 7 years to correct the temperature change that we're going through because of the rising carbon levels. So if instead we're able to promote, and sorry, Tarek, I'm like going on this crazy
No,
rant,
it's all
but
right. It's all right. Finish your thought.
if if we're able to encourage or promote behavioral change by the consumer, to do the good thing. So instead of like a recycling program where, hey, you should recycle that because it's good for the environment and also because we're going to fine you if you don't, right? It's like, okay, so recycling program worked after like 20 years, 30 years of pushing it. Cool. You look at that and compare it to like Tesla, where they just made people want electric vehicles. Like it went from this niche hippie product, right, where it was feasible, but no one wanted it because it seemed silly, into this like all-time sexy thing that everyone is crazed over. And now like all the car companies are building them. They have incited behavioral change, and people are doing good for the environment. Just not because they're doing good for the environment. They're not being good people. I mean, part of it, but it's mostly because it's sexy, right? They like that image change. They like the way it looks. And so that seems to be like a more sustainable way of inciting sustainable behavior. And so instead of creating these large industrial units that municipalities need to buy, and then you need to tax people in order to like operate them, and maybe eventually the money will come back to the taxpayer or something like that, why not create something that is inherently beneficial to the consumer? So an air purifier, elevated levels of carbon dioxide indoors can actually impair cognitive performance. That sense of like brain fog, that mid-afternoon sleepiness, usually is correlated to elevated levels of CO2 that can atmospheric levels are 400 parts per million. Inside, it can get anywhere from 800 parts per million to even 3,000. A study of schools in Texas showed that 20% of the classrooms exhibited over 3,000 parts per million at peak levels. And this is in classrooms where cognitive performance should be optimal, right? So if we are able to like make that clear to people and provide an air purifier that alleviates that issue, maybe we could start rolling into something that and create an image that is associated with that. Like, hey, this is not only are you making your thinking better, you're also helping the environment. And when people come into your home or come into your office or come into your classroom and they see you using that thing, they're going to have this idea of you. And it'll be an idea that's similar to, one of like driving a Tesla or like buying stuff from your local farmer's market, or, there's an image associated with that. Right. There's more marketing that needs to be done there in order to like really tie that image. But I think that there's a lot to be said there. Now, there's obviously a lot that we need to kind of detail out further. I think the tech is what we have the furthest along. I'm excited about the way that we're framing this. But yeah, I mean, I think that we need to really refine how we're going to present that narrative in a manner that is, of course, like genuine. That I mean, that is an intrinsic part of the narrative. It just needs to be told correctly. And I'm not necessarily the best storyteller, so I think we just need to start working with others that can kind of bring that into play.